Good morning. Welcome to Sickle Cell Mentorship, Sickle Cell Awareness Month interview sessions, where we're looking to create awareness for those with sickle cell and as well as people around these people, that's the society at large. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elsie. I'm the community manager for Sickle Cell Mentorship. We would like to meet you. Please, can you tell us your name and what relationship you might have with Sickle Cell Warriors? Are you an employee, employer, medical practitioner, friends, or family member of a Sickle Cell Warrior?
All right, good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't take it for granted. My name is Emmanuel Esanoluw. I happen to be a human resource consultant, a life coach. I do a bit of teams mentoring also, and my focus as a human resource consultant is more of strategic foresight, strategic advisory, in addition to all the other plethora of niches within the human resource spectrum. That's recruitment, outsourcing, and all of that. But then I just have this flair for helping organizations to put strategy to place, especially as regards the culture. And I believe we are going to touch on that today, because culture is some of the issues Sickle Cell Warriors and a lot of other people, for instance, people with disabilities and all of that, are having with quite a lot of companies today. Borders down to the cultural dimension of the organization. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to be here with me. Okay, so just going straight into the questions for today. So the first question we have on our list is, have you had to work or manage a Sickle Cell Warrior on your team? If yes, how did you find out about their condition?
All right, I've not had to do that directly, but the one that comes to mind is a friend of mine. Well, while I was in school, that's their institution, and then a very close friend. And then I think that was what brought me into close contact with a Sickle Cell Warrior. I can say it's very, very amazing. It was a very amazing experience, right? She was able to fight through, and then all through the point where she came out of school, a lot of stories in between that. But then that gave me the first experience I've had of the SS dimension. I've had of sickle cell patients and all of that. But that was like the first encounter I had one-on-one, having to help through that phase, talk her through the phase, mentor, and all the other things you can have to help her monitor medications and all of that. So yeah, that was the first experience I had. And I got to know because we were friends, so she was able to tell me. And I think she was able to open up because I was invested in her welfare. She just saw that, no, this one is not like every other person. Aside the fact that I was into school administration and I was into leadership, and I noticed that you get sick too often. What's the issue? Because I really don't know what the symptoms and all of that were. But she was able to open up about that. Oh, I'm SS, and oh, fine. Now that I know, I on you to be sure that you're fine all the time. And then that was how I got to know about it. But she's doing amazingly well now. So I can classify her as a Sickle Cell Warrior.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We would definitely have you to come again to speak about the experience in school. But today, let's just focus on the HRO and the culture, like we said. So my next question will be, what are the primary challenges faced by employees with sickle cell in the workplace, and how can these challenges be addressed?
Wow. So I'll put all of the challenges they may face, and I say this as a human resource consultant who has had the opportunity to with diverse organizations. I'll put them under what I will call misconception and stigmatization. Whatsoever challenges they will face will be either the challenge of the misconception or the challenge of stigmatization. And both, whether it's the challenge of misconception or the challenge of stigmatization, it all boils down to the concept of awareness. I know we'll come to that, so don't let me say the solution. But then, we have a lot of misconceptions as far as sickle cell is concerned. A lot of people believe it's contagious. A lot of people think it's a very rare disease. Some people even call it the rich man disease because, to go through as a warrior and then come out of it, you must really have enough funds to do all of that. A lot of people will say those people are very lazy people, especially sickle cell warriors who don't look like it. Some people, when they are going through those crisis periods, it shows. But then some people also don't look like it, and you're just like, you are very lazy people and all of that. But then those are part of the misconceptions. People may not be talking because they are stigmatizing them. Some people just don't know that things like that occur. Misconceptions like they don't live long, they can't have children. And so because of that, a lot of people run away from them. They don't even want to come into friendship, not to talk of marriage and all of that, relationship and all of that. So a lot of misconceptions, really. So for that question, I'll say the challenges they'll face will fall under either misconceptions or stigmatization.
Okay, thank you for that. How can these challenges be addressed in the workplace?
That brings me to the solution, and really it's awareness. I really love what your initiative is doing as regards this. And I believe probably in some years to come, maybe before we get to the 2030 goal, we would have spread enough awareness about this, because really a lot of people, especially within the Black continent, the African continent, it looks like we really don't know much about this. We don't know much about it. I may be wrong, but permit me to say that probably we're even more aware of disabilities and, all these physical disabilities and all of that than we are aware of what people go through, what the sickle cell warriors go through. But awareness is still the key, because you can't blame people for what they don't know. It's assumed that when people know better, they will do better. Not everybody does that though, but then it's because I can say this because firsthand I've had that experience with someone who was very close to me. I had enough common sense to know this person needs support, not isolation. And I think that is what businesses and organizations need to begin to do. These are not the set of people. If you have them as employees, what you do is support them, not isolate them, because isolation is more worse than even what these people go through. The natural tendency for a sickle cell warrior is to just carve in, go into their corner, cry and all of that, face their crisis all alone. But they need maximum support as much as they can get. So I think awareness is still the way to go. And then from awareness, you're able to divert into so many other people. Awareness is the key for me.
Thank you for that. My next question, how can creating an inclusive workplace benefit both the employees with sickle cell and the overall company culture?
All right, so that will make me touch on something called the DEI within the human resource, and I think it's a global concept. D stands for diversity, E stands for equity, and I stands for inclusion. And this is a concept that allows for organizations to be multi-faced as they pursue their global mandate. So when it comes to talking about sickle cell warriors, I think companies need to be very big on DEI, because that structure gives all the support anybody within an organization would need. If you are saying your company needs to be diverse, it means you must be able to bring people from all walks of life, all types of generation and all of that, and then accommodate them within your structure. If you do that very intentionally and purposefully enough, you begin to realize that not only do you want your workforce to be diverse, you want them to be equitable, not equal now. So the goal is not equality, it is equity. Equity simply means that you must be able to give each person and accommodate the difference and diverseness of your workforce in such a way that you are supplying them what they need for everybody to stand shoulder to shoulder. So for instance, if you have that structure within your organization, you probably will be able to recruit someone with a disability. And if you do that, it means that your structure itself, I mean the physical structure, and then the internal structure, talking about your hierarchy and all of that, must support that kind of person. Same thing for sickle cell warriors. If you're able to say, okay, we are diverse, we don't mind having a sickle cell warrior within our workforce, you must be able to put the right structure in place that will support that kind of person. So I believe organizations should begin to look at their DEI structure to ensure that the right policies are in place, the right framework is in place. For instance, if you have someone who is a sickle cell warrior within your organization, something you should begin to look at is probably not a 9 to 5 for that kind of person. 9 to 5 all through the week. Because there are days this person probably would have a spleen crisis or would need to check on the doctor. And then because of the nature of what they go through, they need to visit the clinic or their doctor very often. They probably will exhaust their leave even before the end of the year. So what do you do to accommodate them? You probably want to work around the compressed work week or look at the time where they are more efficient and give them more work during that time, so that when they are really not that efficient or they need to check their medical doctor. So your DEI needs to be very strong, because if that is properly in place, you'll be able to support the diverseness of whatsoever workforce you have within your organization. Yeah.
Thank you very much for ask the question in case you want to add more to it, because the question says, how can creating an inclusive workplace benefit both the employees with sickle cell and the overall company culture? But you've been able to even answer into some of other questions. So if you want to still throw more light again, you can go ahead before I go ahead with the next question.
All right. So, at the beginning when we started, I began to speak about culture. And culture is in simple elementary, when we are taught culture, they say culture is a way of life. That is indeed true, because culture simply means the way of life of an organization. Culture is what breathes life into an organization, which is why when your culture goes wrong, it's just a matter of time. Your organization will also go wrong. It's just the simple truth. And so when it comes to culture, from the start, culture is not something you wake up after probably about 10 years of your organization and say, oh, we remember there's something about. No, culture is what your organization lives on, meaning from the start, you must have incorporated it. And the benefit of putting your DEI and the proper culture, policy and all of that in place for your organization, for the employee now, probably a sickle cell warrior, they're able to thrive within that environment. Because once the environment allows them to be themselves, not isolate themselves, and give their best whenever they're able to do that, then the company profits from them giving their best. The company profits from giving their productivity, giving their maximum. Aside that, there's also a global recognition that comes to organizations who are able to put a very proper DEI structure and work structure in work culture in place that supports this side of it. There are some grants you probably will not be able to apply for if you don't have your DEI structure in place to accommodate this kind of people. So the company profits in the sense that they have a global voice, they have a global recognition. There are some places you can't talk if at least you don't have a percentage of probably persons with disabilities within your organizations and all of this. That is on the culture front. But on the employee front, they're able to express themselves, they're able to give their best, they're able to come into the person they want to. They don't see themselves being shortchanged or being stigmatized simply because they have this sickle cell trait or the sickle cell disease. And one thing we must understand is nobody chooses to be an SS. You just get introduced into this world and you find out, oh, so this is who I am. And it's not something you can just change, wake up, sleep and wake up and say, oh, I'm no longer that. So nobody chooses it. So why should we stigmatize people for what they were not even in the front to choose? If people will choose, nobody wants to choose AS or SS. Everybody wants to be AA, but you don't choose it. It's something you come into, and so people should not be stigmatized or be left to the background simply because that is who they are. So yeah, I think for culture, that is what I'll say to that. It's both profitable to the sickle cell warriors and the company themselves.
Thank you for that. The next question goes like this. What are the potential consequences? I know you've touched that about some companies not being able to access certain grants, right? What are the consequences of not addressing the needs of employees with sickle cell disease?
All right. Some of the consequences will be that you may lose out on very capable persons, because the lie we tell ourselves is that people with disabilities don't make a lot of sense within the workforce. What if your high performer, the highest performing person in your organization happens to be a sickle cell warrior? Are you going to sack the person simply because the person is SS? If you do that and you take that out, you've lost your highest performing person. It's difficult. One thing as an HR we fear is having to retrain people from the beginning. So imagine you lose out on your highest, you have to start. The investment that goes into learning and development is a lot of money. And these are things that could be averted if the right structure have been put in place. So if this is not properly addressed, organizations that have this set of people, that those are sickle cell warriors within their framework, and don't give them the right structure, will begin to lose out on their highest performance. That's one. Two is turnover will be high, because these people, when you don't give them the right atmosphere to thrive, is either they leave your company, which is turnover. So turnover will be either the second one. The third thing is your company begin to have a kind of brand perception, meaning that there are some set of people that will not want to apply to your company because probably reviews from people, reviews from families of these sickle cell warriors who have had issues with the organization. Such reviews will give your brand perception a whole new look, and then people like, what's all of this? Oh, I don't want to be there. Oh, my friend had an experience. Oh, my neighbor had an experience, so I don't want to apply there, things like that. And you know that for business, branding is a whole big game. It's an entire big game. Nobody wants to lose their brand perception or paint the wrong picture in the minds of people who could eventually be their clients or customers. So these are some of the shortfalls. These are some of the things that happen when businesses don't put this in perspective.
Thank you for that. The fact you even mentioned branding, I see it as something that really do affect a lot of companies, because even handling, let's say, for example, we're talking an inclusive work culture, and you are discriminating against a certain group of persons, it's definitely going to be bad PR, which is going to definitely affect the brand negatively. So thank you for that. So my next question goes like this. You've given us a bit, like a couple of practices that we could try in the workspace, but I would like to see if there are more you'd like to add. What specific policies and practices can HR department implement to create a more inclusive workplace for employees with sickle cell?
All right. The first one I would love to talk on is there should be more education and awareness on that topic. And it should be a matter of policy, not as a matter of convenience. Because like I said, for every brand and every organization that wants to have a global voice, you must begin to look at that part of your business. Because I foresee, for now, the crave is for persons with disabilities, and you see a lot of things happening within that space. And then if you call yourself a global brand, you must have persons you employ within that context in your company. And so I believe it's going to be same. The fight for the Sickle Cell Warriors is also going to be that in some years to come, and businesses should begin to prepare for that. These are persons who need to make a living, they need to earn a living, they need to live their life. And so we must begin to create opportunities to accommodate them within our structure. So if you could have someone as a tech person working remotely, you probably will not need to do about 10% or 50% of what you currently do for almost the same thing, but just tweak it here and there. And so I think education and awareness needs to be ingrained into the culture of every organization so that this idea of stigmatization and discrimination can die a natural death because it's coming from your culture. That's one. So education and awareness needs to be ingrained. You probably need to take out a week in a year or a day in a month where you talk about these things. Let people know. You probably, just like some organizations arrange fitness exercises for them, and it's a matter of policy. If you don't do it, you probably get your salary slashed or you get put on probation. This needs to be done within every organization. So education and awareness. I also think probably the federal government, state government, and all these agencies in charge of this need to say more about some of these things. The issue with Nigeria is you don't have data. So sometimes you can't even speak to data to know the percentage of the population in Nigeria that are persons living as sickle cell warriors. We really don't have so much data, or probably the data are hiding. But we need these things to be able to combat and spread the awareness, spread the education. That's one. The second thing that I see Nigerian companies begin to do, because I get involved in helping organizations recraft their policies and all of that, and I see a lot of companies are beginning to tilt towards remote work. But that is not the only work mode or work model available. There's something called the compressed work model. Probably when someone is in his high performance, because there are days, not even because you are battling any disease or anything, but life happens to people, and some weeks they are not, probably they give 100% this week, next week they're only able to give 80%, another week they're able to give 60%, another week. You can look at those weeks where they're in their highest performance and say, okay, since you're on your top performance here, okay, do 45 weeks of work this week, so that will make up for the time the person cannot give you another 45 weeks, or probably cannot give you 40 weeks. That way we can accommodate the inconsistencies of people, because we will not always be 100% all the time. And so that work model is available. That what brought me to that is organizations also need to begin to look at their flexible work arrangement. What work arrangement do you have? I really don't know why a lot of companies are not supporting some of these things, but these are realities that are staring us in the face. Organizations that will not give remote work a handshake are hugging it right now and then giving it the best. So we need to begin to look at that as a matter of policy also, because policy is strong. It is what gives life to the culture and make culture lead a good life. Another thing is there have to be supportive policies. Policies like, for instance, under the concept of DEI, for persons who don't have any diseases or declared that, you probably will give them, say, 15-day work leave annually. But for persons who are persons with disabilities who need to check their doctor often, you can't also give 15%. If you are giving 15 days work leave, you are not equitable. You are trying to be equal, but you are not equitable, because these persons will probably finish that plus their sick leave plus every other leave, and then they won't be able to now use the actual leave for what it is meant for. So that is what the DEI concept, and these are some of the supportive policies we need to put in place for persons with the sickle. Some of the policies you can also put in place, HMO, some of these health benefits and all of that. You can't give the same health benefits you give to someone who does not have any issue or any health history, and then give that same to the person who is a sickle cell warrior, and then you want them to thrive under that same condition. So we need to put together supportive policies. And then another thing we look at is the employee assistance program. Some organizations that I know, especially within the fintech industry, began to do things like office bodies, office parties. HR has begun to enter into more assistive role than all this fire and hire kind of mentality, where you are there to support them. Counseling, these are people that need a lot of emotional counseling, IQ training, and this support needs to be in place. And these are some of the employee assistance programs, such that I have an office body who is always checking on me. Even if HR does not know where I am, this person knows where I am. So the day I'm having crisis, I know that even if I'm not able to pick my phone to call somebody, probably someone will call it at that nick of time. And we've seen warriors who were saved and who are still alive today simply because a friend checked on them. Oh, we've not heard from you. Okay, let's get to the house. Probably she's having, and then they got there at the nick of time. We've seen people with asthma who are saved today simply because somebody called at the right time or somebody reached out at the right time. And organizations need to have this employee assistance program, learning and development, training, all of these things. Train other people. Don't just focus only the training on sickle cell warriors. Train other people so that they will also be able to support them when there's a need for that. So these are some of the things that I think we need to look at. DEI is really a very elaborate thing. I think Nigerian organizations and all over the world will need to do more. Yeah.
We really do. We had a lot of complaints in the sickle cell communities where people, even at the interview stage, they get rejected just because they discover that the candidate is a sickle cell warrior. So I like the fact that you actually added that the education should not be targeted at just the sickle cell warriors. We've been speaking about management and the HR and so far. So my next question goes like this. What role can HRO professional play in fostering a culture of understanding and acceptance? And this is in the direction of the other employees who, not the ones who have the sickle cell disease. What role can HRO professionals play in this? You've mentioned office bodies and parties at the moment, but I would like to know more. What other way can HRO professionals come in to build the culture of understanding and acceptance among the other members of the workplace who do not have the sickle cell disease?
All right, so for the HR role, in comparison to some other roles, goes two ways. Is like a sword that has both the good and the bad part, And when I say the good and the bad part, means some of it come depending on the route you want to tow. But it goes two ways for these. The first one is HR professionals should be more supportive. Not just towards the people that within the category that we call the sickle cell warriors, but even towards other people, because you don't just, for instance, if you've not given them an education to know for them not to discriminate and all of that, you can't just come and then begin to enforce policies and say you were discriminatory. What do you mean I was discriminatory? Some people don't even know that some of these people are probably with the SS or they are warriors and not. They don't know. So if I don't know, I will treat you like I'm treating myself. So if I see you sleeping, how are you sleeping, guy? Wake up, Jerry. Let's go. They gave us work to do. You are here sleeping. Meanwhile, the person you are talking to may be. But if the person doesn't, I'll treat you like I treat everybody. So I think there should be a level of open communication within every organization. Just like I know some information are very confidential, and that is where the HR comes in. In an environment where you can't disclose and say, that person is this, or which is not so professional. When these people, the people who call the Sickle Cell Warriors, when they come with complaints and say, this person treated me this way, this person treated me that way, the first route you go is not to call the person and start shouting, don't you know this person is this? No, you speak to the person and let them understand why they shouldn't do that. That is the first level. You don't attack people first. You give them education. That's the first level. Then the second level to that is in the case where this now becomes consistent and it looks like the discrimination is unending, and then the person is probably now intentionally doing what they say, and then that is where your policy. That's why these issues need to be policy backed, so that when anybody is going against policy, then the policy does what it's meant to do. And that is why I say it's two-faced. So you serve as a mentor, you serve as a coach, you serve as a guide, you train people. But then when that training is not now being executed, or when they are not making use of the knowledge you are making available and going against the policy, then you stand as a judge also, and then you implement what the policy says. That way, if you probably make a scapegoat of one or two, every other person will naturally want to fall in line, probably for a while. Then they come back to, then you repeat the entire process, and then gradually everybody begins to get the message. Another thing you could do, I want to push this now to Sickle Cell Warriors, is speak out more, especially if you have an HR who is quite understanding and who is there as a support structure. Speak out more. If you have been discriminated against, let your HR know, or let your team lead know. Let it be evident. Because if you're in a team and your team lead understands this is what you are going through, and your team lead is supportive, between your HR and your team lead, they will create a structure that will ensure that nobody discriminates irrationally against you. And then that's where you are building a structure around yourself that helps you to breathe easily, helps you to bring your best to the workplace. So I think these are some of the things HR. So it needs to be two-faced, not just one dimension.
Thank you very much for that. I still have just a few more questions. So we talked about battling stigma. So you already mentioned what HRs are meant to do. You would like to go deeper, like how can HR professionals combat stigma and discrimination against employees with sickle cell? Because yes, as much as we have educated the other employees, there are sometimes cases where some people have certain prejudice against people with certain disabilities. So when they keep on with the stigmatization, the discrimination, what are the methods or practices HR professionals should take, especially when these cases or incidents are reported to the HR professionals against these cases of stigmatization and discrimination? What are the practices or tactics you would recommend for HR professionals to impose when they are faced with these kind of situations?
All right, so the way HR works is sometimes you just want to understand what really the issue is. We don't first go into attack, or you want to understand, is it a knowledge issue with the person stigmatizing or discriminating? Is it that the person is intentional? Is it that the person lacks understanding? Some people may even be doing it in their mind. They are just trying to, probably they've been a victim, probably a family friend of theirs, the crisis and all of that. And so it is out of that. It is that anger that is fueling. So you need to understand what the issue is. And then when you understand what the issue is, you're able to help or correct or discipline. I'm choosing those words carefully. It's either you're able to help the person and bring the person to a level of understanding where the person is now able to become a champion for Sickle Cell Warriors, or you correct the person. Correct is a lesser measure to discipline, and discipline could be as tough as having to fire the person or having to get the person out of the organization. And why the person is doing, or why those set of people are doing what they are doing, they're able to do what needs to be done. For instance, if it is on the level of being able to help or correct, you could share personal stories of people who are sickle cell warriors and they are doing amazing things the world over. We have a lot of them. Why don't we share those stories? Why is it like you are silent on those stories and don't let the world see? A lot of people admire so many people. In fact, they are your mentors, but they're actually sickle cell warriors, and you don't know. So we need to share some of these personal stories, and in this way we are educating and spreading awareness about these things. We also need to begin to debunk misconceptions, because how can you tell me a sickle cell warrior cannot get married, cannot give birth? You have a lot of them who are doing amazing things, who have been married and have children and all of that. We need to begin to debunk misconceptions also. Like I said, we need to begin to advocate for policy change within our workplaces and the world over globally. Just like people with disabilities are doing this, and then right now you see a lot of organizations build a mighty edifice and then they put a very smooth place where people, and for them it's as a matter of policy. So I believe for sickle cell warriors also, we need to begin to advocate for policy change, lobby for support, and all of those things. I don't want to give too much because the answer cannot be a blanket response, right? It depends on the assessment of the HR and what is causing that discrimination. Then we're able to give your support. But don't forget, it's either you help the person, correct the person, or you discipline such an individual. That way you're able to bring normalcy to what you do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Question goes like this. How can HR departments measure the effectiveness of their efforts to create an inclusive workplace for employees with sickle cell?
All right, we are back to that point again where I say all these efforts should be policy backed. If they are policy backed, it means a dimension of those resolutions or the things that we say should be done will be ingrained into whatsoever appraisal method that an organization, because it's also a strategy. If you are talking of picking, supporting, or using support for disability and support for sickle cell warrior as a measure of increasing your brand perception within the global stage, then I believe there will be a strategy to that. If there's a strategy to that, then there's a way you are going to measure if that strategy is working or not. And the way you do that, or most organizations do that, is they put it into their KPIs or OKR or whatever model they are using to measure performance. If that is the case, then it means there is probably a metric by which HR is going to measure that. So some of the metrics could be the number of persons with the number of sickle cell warriors that you probably have within your organization, vis-a-vis the number that have left within probably a calendar year. Another one could be, you could do a survey and survey opinions from your employees, and then probably opinion pool from employees with the sickle cell, who are sickle cell champions or sickle cell warriors. And then the survey helps you to know if what you are doing is right or if it's wrong, and all of that. I also want to believe that before you begin to put any steps to action, you probably would have also sampled opinions from the persons that you are putting the focus point on. So for instance, I want to help the sickle cell warriors within my organization. It would be wrong for me to just assume a solution for them or assume this is the way I can help them. The right thing for me to do is probably call a focus group discussion and say, okay, this is what we have in mind. What do you guys think? Then when they tell us what they think, how they think we can help them, we sit back and say, okay, which one is possible based on the budget we have or whatsoever we have, the resources we have. And then when we put that in place, in fact, they will score us before we score ourselves. So you guys are doing great. Oh, I think my health benefit is perfect for me. Oh, I think my leave bonus is, in fact, I think I have too many leave bonuses now because even my crisis does not. So they will give us the feedback. So I think feedback is a very good way by which an HR or HR professional could know if they are doing the right thing. So HR should not shy away from feedback. Always strive to get that before you come to appraisal and all of that. Ensure that the focus group that is in perspective, let them give you the feedback and then trade with the feedback and then become better at that. So I think these are some of the ways. Either you go the route of being able to measure it in terms of quantitatively now, or you go the route of survey that helps you to measure qualitatively. Whichever way you choose to go is a fine way, but feedback is very necessary.
Thank you very much. So we are down to the last question. What advice would you give HR professionals who are looking to improve their company's inclusive efforts?
So we need to understand that sickle cell is not an African thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. It's a global phenomenon, meaning that there are organizations globally who have this set of people working within the organizations and they are thriving. And one of the core functions within the human resource space is what we call learning and development. So it means we need to, as HR, we need to expand our knowledge base. We need to go and learn. You could try and do what they call benchmarking of some of these organizations. What are they doing in the organization that is making persons with disabilities and persons with sickle cell to thrive within their company? When you learn that, whatever you learn in their context, bring it home and put it within your own context. Because you might have gotten the content from them, but don't forget that probably what they do within their own space might not fit into your context. So look at your context, bring that content you've learned, bring whatever you've garnered, and then put it in your context and deploy it within your environment. So one, I think every human resource professional needs to go and expand our knowledge base as far as this set of people. Because like I said, I feel so strongly, and I don't want to say a lot of things because based on data available and based on some other things, it looks like there's going to be, and probably also due to technological advancement, that begin to look within that space and profile solutions. Because there are people that are living right now as Sickle Cell warriors who hardly, if they don't tell you, you probably would not know. And that's not because of anything. It's just because of medical advancement and all of that. So because of all of these coming together, there probably would be a lot more people within this framework, within this niche, within this demographic that are going to be applying for more jobs. And except you want them to lie about who they are, then we must begin to put support structures in place for this person. So we need to learn more. You shouldn't be the HR that would tell somebody off. Even if you are going to do it, probably not at the point where you're interviewing the person. Oh, so yeah. And well, I don't know the kind of interview that will come that will start making you ask the person, are you SS? Are you AS? Are you at the interview level? I don't think. So we need to learn more is all I'm trying to say, because even when you see that, for instance, the organizations where we have people living with the virus, that's the HIV virus, and then they are doing fine within the organization, and if they don't tell you, you won't know. And the HR is so sound, confidential in the whole thing that you wouldn't know if they don't mention it. So if you can do that for persons living with the virus, then I think we can do much more for Sickle Cell Warriors. But it comes down to that point where we really learn, and then benchmark other organizations who have this set of people within. And another advice I will give is, as Nigerians or Africans, don't be judgmental, because some people that you see and you even conclude that they are sickle cell warriors is probably not even sickle cell. It probably could be something else. Because some people see and they just conclude, oh, by the way that person is walking, the way that person has to be. No, they probably are not. So don't be judgmental. Don't judge people from the look and all of that. Just let's make the world a better place. Life is already hard in itself. Let's not make it more difficult for people. Let's give all this support, because you can't tell. The support you are giving is a seed. It's going to come back to you. The support you are not giving is also a seed. It will come back to you. And like I said, we don't choose to be sickle cell warriors. It's just who we become. So you don't know who in your family will become the next person that will need that kind of. If you don't give it now, you won't get it. So yeah, let's spread love. And you know the Joseph this year's theme for Sickle Cell Warriors, very amazing something. It's talking about hope through progress. So let's spread hope. Let's spread hope globally, nationally, federally, statewide. Let's spread hope among this set of people, because they need it. They also need to make money. They also need to feed their family. So you have to make a way for them and pave the way for them to be able to do all of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. This session was very insightful, and I hope everyone who is watching and everyone who gets to watch this after gets to learn a thing or two, especially the HR professionals as well as employers of laborers, company owners, because the world is operating on a global level. Businesses do not operate on just local levels anymore because of digitization, right? So thank you very much for making out time for this interview. We'll be reaching out to you also. So you come and tell us about your experience in school with your friend who was a sickle cell warrior. Yes, that is another. We do not just battle stigmatization in the workplace. It also happens in school. Some persons are even at the verge of dropping out because the school system doesn't create that inclusive space for them to be able to function in their academics. So we look forward to having you, because it's wonderful that you are also in position of leadership in the school environment also. So I believe that you are going to be one of our guests who's going to throw more light on that case. I will look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much for making our time for this and joining in the awareness creation. God bless you, sir. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's session. We hope to see you in the next section. Do have a great day. Welcome once again to the Sickle Cell Awareness Month. This interview session is brought to you by Sickle Cell Mentorship. You can follow us on all social media platforms, SC Mentorship, and you get to find us. So do have a wonderful day. Keep spreading hope, and God bless you. Bye.